this is turning into quite some race now as we go on to lap number 60, 1.2 seconds. Zanardi's just been able to maintain that advantage over Teferen so far, with Gilles perhaps just wondering whether to keep pushing hard or to look towards this second set of pit stops. We're probably about 10 laps away from those if we stay green flag, but we soon be getting into the area that if there's a yellow flag, we may well see the pit stops being made. On board with Gilles de Ferran. Let's just see if we can spot any difference in the handling between the two cars.
Certainly interesting to me that Zanardi able to make a jump there when the restart comes again, and then after a lap or so, Gilles de Ferran into his stride, able to close up that gap again. He's now kind of within striking distance. Well, not really within striking distance, I guess, but he's right there should Alex Zanardi make any type of a mistake.
Yes.
He was a bit wide there, Gilles de Ferran, wasn't he?
He was, yes. I think he got a bit carried away there, and Zanardi was actually a bit tidier around the hairpin. But that's something we saw in Australia as well, in fact, Jeremy. It was after the yellows. Zanardi was always very, very quick in the opening laps. He seems to be very quick on the colder tyre once it's lost temperature behind the pace car. But then as things begin to settle down again, last week it was Paul Tracy, this week it's de Ferran on the Goodyears that seems to be able to close up a bit more. So Zanardi quick on the cold tyres, then he seems to lose it a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. I was just going to comment on that, actually. There is Dario Franchitti trying to get past Alanson Jr. and he's well sideways there, and he ended up actually losing a couple of positions. He did, both to Paul Tracy, who's then the second of the Marlboro cars, and also Adrian Fernandez moved past as well. So Dario Franchitti back to 12th place as we stand.
So that was the moment between Alanson Jr. and Dario Franchitti. As you say, Franchitti now down to 12th position. That's a bit of a shame, but he's having a good run so far. In the battle for Rookie of the Year honours at the moment with Patrick Carpentier. And the Canadian is down in 14th place at the moment. Now this is interesting. We're looking back to 1992 when Alanson Jr. and Danny Sullivan made contact. At the time they were teammates, and Alanson Jr. was on for yet another win. They made contact with each other, and it was Danny who came through to the win. That's probably one you remember quite well, isn't it, Jeremy?
Yeah, it didn't go down very well, that actually. Al wasn't terribly impressed at all. He was in contention for the championship and really taken out by his teammate. Not a good move.
There's Mark Blundell under pressure from Parker Johnston. He's got Brian Herter close behind. Then it's Alanson Jr. and then Paul Tracy. So this is a good gaggle of cars, but it looks as though Mark is having to watch his mirrors a little bit. Parker Johnston almost pushing him around the hairpin there. Johnston in 7th place. And Blundell's got his hands full at the moment. His teammate Guterman is slightly further up the road in 3rd place. But there's no doubt that Mark's struggling to keep this group behind. Remember, it's his first race on this track as Johnston has a little look to overtake, decides against it. Mark did not race here last year because of the injuries he sustained in the Brazilian race, and came along as a spectator but couldn't actually join in. So he's getting used to race conditions on this track for the first time, and he's being followed by a man who had a great result here last year. His best result to date, 2nd position it was, and a tremendous achievement. But look at this, Johnston is all over the back of Mark Blundell's car looking for the slightest gap, but so far he can't quite find it.
Well, that was close, wasn't it? Parker Johnston, he always goes very well on the street circuits. He had a magnificent 2nd place finish here last year, and that remains his best finish in the PPG Kart World Series. He's currently, as you say, running in 7th place, once past Mark Blundell.
He's waving at him as well, I think, or unless he was just taking a tear-off off, but he shouldn't be too angry because Mark's only doing his job. Oh, look at this, side by side, almost as they go in. He didn't quite manage to get inside. Mark Blundell doing a great job. He's got the right to cover the line. That's totally what he's entitled to, and he's doing his job as a racing driver to make it hard for Parker Johnston to come past. He wasn't weaving, he was just occupying the bit of road that Parker Johnston wanted to use to get past. So Parker Johnston getting increasingly frustrated in this battle. Now he goes to the outside. Let's just see if there's an opportunity. He's going to have to be very brave here to go around the outside of Mark Blundell, and he can't quite do it, and he can't cut back on the inside either.
Now, sometimes you might see somebody try to make an outside pass, though, so you get the inside for the next left-hander. Certainly last year, Christian Fittipaldi and Greg Moore did that a couple of times before they finally came to grief doing it a 3rd time. But it'd be interesting to see whether Parker Johnston, he can see the next guy in front of him, Bobby Rahal, pulling away lap by lap as we see Paul Tracy into the pits out of 10th place. There's some great dicing here going on down the field.
Yes, Paul Tracy has just come into the pits, let me tell you. and he is quite a long way down after the various problems he suffered, and it goes zapping back out again as 64 laps have been completed here so far. Back on board with Gilles de Ferran, and he's still lying in second place behind Alex Zanardi. 1.4 seconds the gap at the moment, with Maurizio Gugelmin in third position, Scott Pruett in fourth, and then Bobby Rahal, and then that group of cars with Mark Blundell still leading the battle ahead of Parker Johnston. Parker Johnston still not able to get past. Brian Herter there as well, looking... it's quite funny, we've got the same three cars that were involved in that incident in Australia all together again, because at that occasion Parker Johnston tried to get past Blundell and Herter, and it all ended in tears. And as you're looking at this battle, let me tell you that Al Unser Jr. has come into the pit, so Penske deciding on a slightly different strategy here for the two cars, and with 65 laps completed, they may be betting on another yellow or so and being able to go through to the end now, and hoping that that will pick them up some places throughout the course of this race. But both of them quite a long way down, so it's really just a matter of scoring as many points as possible rather than going for a possible race victory.
There he is, Mark Blundell getting that car a little bit sideways under braking now. He's on his limit in that Motorola car. You can see that Mark Blundell is trying very, very hard indeed. Certainly Parker Johnston a smoother ride, but he's not able to make that pass. No,
so far he can't find the gap, and this could be very interesting when they all get into the pits if we get to that stage, because that's going to be a very tight pit lane battle between these cars. They're all so close on the road that just the faintest fumble from one of the mechanics could mean the difference between 2 or 3 places on the road when they all come back out again. But still some laps away from the next round of pit stops, as Blundell still defends that position from Parker Johnston. Johnston settling into the Team Green setup now, working with Tony Cicali, the well-known race engineer that looked after Jacques Villeneuve in his championship-winning season. And Johnston and Cicali working very well together. Again, just look how close they are under braking, over the bumps too. When it gets that bumpy, hard to control the car, and Johnston about as close as you dare be without actually making contact with the back of Blundell's car. Meanwhile, Maurizio Gugelmin has come into the pits. Let me tell you, Gugelmin is in the pits. There you can see him, and this is an early pit stop from Gugelmin, running in third place before he came in. This is an interesting tactic. If we get a yellow flag around now, then he's really going to be in bad shape, but it could work his way. Just depends what happens in the rest of the race.
Yeah, because everybody else has to make their pit stop, and really whether they make it under green or yellow, in actual fact, doesn't really make any difference. The cars can come straight into the pits at racing speed, so they don't really lose any time there. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this plays out over these next few laps.
So back out Gugelmin goes, and that's dropped him down at the order, but of course everyone else still to make their stops as Parker Johnston still tries to find a way past Mark Blundell. But Blundell has been in this position many times over his career in both Formula One and now in the PPG Kart Series. He knows how to keep ahead of another competitor given half a chance. He'll stay there, and that's exactly what he's doing. Great job so far. Brian Herter behind them, just watching the whole thing with interest and seeing what happens. Scott Pruett has come into the pits as well. That's another of the leaders to come in, and that slips him down the order. But all of the leaders now really into their pit lane window. We're going to be seeing a lot of pit activity. On board with Gilles de Ferran, we've completed 68 laps out of 105 now. Alex Zanardi still the race leader. De Ferran's got himself up behind the car of Guelta Sales there, so he's losing a little bit of time to Zanardi. And let's just see what the gap is as they come across the line. Last time, that Zanardi has come into the pits. So, vital pit stop. Last time around, Chip Ganassi's crew did a better job than the Walker Racing crew. Is it going to go as according to plan? Bit of change of the front wings there as well. Tweaking the front wings to change the handling of the car, and away goes Zanardi. Great stop. Oh, Johnston comes in at the same time, but Zanardi just about squeezes out clear of Parker Johnston, and the race leader is about to rejoin, trundling down the pit lane at the speed limit. It's just 60 miles an hour here. It looks so slow compared to about 170, 180 as they go past on the outside of the pit wall.
Great stuff here. There is Gilles de Ferran, of course, back in the lead there, as he was earlier in the race. And just another lap or two for certain before he will have to come into the pits with the Valvoline Cummins car of Derek Walker. Into the hairpin one more time now. It'll just be We'll see this time. He has to come in any second up. There he comes into the pit lane, Ben.
So this is going to be a tremendous battle now. We'll try and keep an eye out as to Alex Zanardi's track position as Gilles de Ferran comes into the pits. Can they beat the Chip Ganassi crew this time? They've still got the same amount of fuel basically to go in the car. That's really what takes the time as the wheelmen get to work as well. Is de Ferran going to be able to squeeze out ahead of Zanardi? Oh, it's not a particularly clean getaway. It seemed to just waste a bit of time. Good to see we've got the times up now, 16 seconds, but I think Zanardi's just gone across the line, and I don't think de Ferran's going to get out ahead of Zanardi. Let's see as they come down to the pit lane exit. Watch out for the red car of Alex Zanardi. I'm sure that, in fact, he already will have gone through. Just coming around the outside now. Jimmy Vasser's virtually on the same piece of circuit. Let's try and open up that picture. See, where is Zanardi? Oh, there they go. It looks as though the two Chip Ganassi cars are in fact ahead of de Ferran as he came out of the pits. So Zanardi will still maintain the advantage over de Ferran, but Jimmy Vasser has yet to make his second stop, as has Raul Boesel. Remember, they were out of sequence, so it now means that Boesel is in front, Vasser is second, Zanardi is third, and de Ferran is in fourth place. Lots of excitement, but with the pit stops going on at the moment, a few people out of sequence, we've got a slightly different look to the race to what we had just a little while ago.
Yeah, Jimmy Vasser in second place. You know, he stopped under that previous yellow, but he'd have to go 50-odd laps to make it to the finish. I think that's asking rather too much of the number one target, Reynard Honda. Pretty sure he's going to have to make another pit stop. But you know, he won't have to take on much fuel if he does stay green. Hopefully he won't lose too many places. Interesting, a little bit farther down the field, that strategy by Roger Penske to bring his two guys into the pits early on, while Mark Blundell was holding up Parker Johnson and the other pack, has enabled the two Penske cars to get ahead of them once the pit stops have been completed. So great strategy by Roger Penske.
Now that's interesting to see. Penske's always have been good on calling the pit strategy. They've had a couple of disappointing races, and amazingly we saw that wheel come off Alonso's car last week in Australia. Big mistake, and very rare to see that. But as you say, Jeremy, they do seem to have moved up the order a bit. Paul Tracy running in 7th place, Alonso Jr. in 9th place. And with the stops, most of the stops having been done, we see that Mark Blundell has in fact dropped down to 12th. There you see Michael Andretti in the pits. He's still a long way down the order after his two cut tyres early on in the race. And in fact, he's getting out, it looks like the end of the race for the championship leader. Out of the action. Well, third time unlucky for the Swift chassis. They've had two good results this season so far, but it goes wrong here at Long Beach. And remarkably, although he has won this race once before, it was way back, I think in 1986, long time ago for Michael Andretti. It just never seems to go quite his way here on the streets of Long Beach.
Yeah, not his favourite place. He's generally quick here, but always something seems to jump up and bite him. Once again, that's the same this afternoon. What a shame.
That's right. Well, end of the day for both of the Newman Haas cars now. We saw Roberto Moreno out earlier on. Michael Andretti out of it as well. So a disappointing end to the day for those two cars, but they'll be looking forward to the next race. Hometown for Michael Andretti in the next race, Nazareth on the oval. So he'll be looking forward to that race as Boesel leads from Vasser and Zanardi. 73 laps completed out of 105 here at Long Beach. And our race leader is the Brazilian Raul Boesel, but he has another pit stop to make yet. So does Jimmy Vasser, who's lying in second place. There is Vasser, you see, and there, just behind the car of Matsushita, is the other target-sponsored Chip Ganassi Reynard of Alex Zanardi. And Zanardi running third at the moment, but in terms of the pit stops, he's actually looking strongest so far. Where is Gilles de Ferran? Well, he's a bit behind that, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, because Mauricio Gugelmin got out ahead of Gilles de Ferran, so fourth place out as we stand at the moment for Mauricio Gugelmin, fifth place for Gilles de Ferran, so bad luck there for the Walker Racing crew. Bobby Rahal also made a poor pit stop. He's way back in 14th place after a great run earlier on by the three-time PPG Cup champion.
Scott Pruitt, as you can see, in 6th position. So of the leading runners in the championship, he's the best placed so far.
Not a problem, but it seemed to be a problem with tires, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know, something wrong. You know, we exploded 3 tires, and we figured 3's enough. We might, you know, we were lucky enough not to put it in the wall, so you know, we'll go to the next one. I also want to say hi to Christian and tell him to hurry back.
We had to talk to Christian on the phone. He's back in Miami, as you know. But the question that comes to mind is, did you have any warning, or did they just go?
Just blue. I was very lucky with the 2 on the front straightaway. How I didn't spin, I don't know. I was just very lucky.
Well, your son drove his first go-kart race today, or this week. How'd he do?